The wildfire jumped the ridge at 2:17 p.m. 40 hikers trapped on Eagle Point Trail, smoke choking, flames closing, park rangers evacuating, but the trail was cut off. Thomas Running Bear heard the radio call. 63 years old, prosthetic left leg, Vietnam veteran park ranger. Everyone said he couldn't. Too old, too disabled. Thomas grabbed his medic kit and headed into the fire. Those hikers were about to learn what a combat medic never stops being. Thomas Running Bear had been a park ranger at Yellowstone National Park for 35 years. Every morning at dawn, he'd drive his truck to the ranger station, strap on his prosthetic leg, grab his walking stick, and head out to patrol the trails. At 63, Thomas was the oldest ranger still doing active field work. Most guys his age had retired to desk jobs. Easier, safer, less painful. But Thomas couldn't imagine being stuck inside. The wilderness was his home. Had been since he was a boy on the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. Had been during his 3 tours in Vietnam. Had been every day since he came home in '73, with half his left leg missing and nightmares that never quite stopped. The rangers who worked with him respected him deeply. Thomas knew these mountains better than anyone, knew every trail, every peak, every dangerous spot where tourists got themselves killed. He'd saved 17 lives over 35 years, talked down 3 suicides, found 6 lost children, carried out 4 injured hikers on trails that regular people couldn't walk, all with a prosthetic leg and a body that ached every single morning. Nobody questioned his capability anymore. They'd learned, the hard way, because Thomas Running Bear didn't quit, ever. It wasn't in his nature. His grandfather had taught him that. The wilderness doesn't care about your pain. It only cares if you're strong enough to survive it. Vietnam had taught him that too, in a much harder way. And on a Tuesday in August, when the wildfire jumped the ridge and trapped 40 hikers, Thomas was about to teach everyone else. The fire had started 3 days earlier. Lightning strike in dead timber, small at first, manageable. But the wind shifted. Temperatures hit 98. Humidity dropped to 8%, and the fire exploded. By Tuesday morning, it had consumed 4,000 acres. By noon, 6,000. The park was evacuating, campgrounds cleared, roads closed. But 40 hikers on the Eagle Point Trail didn't get the message in time. Cell service was dead. The trail was 12 miles from the nearest road, and the fire was moving faster than anyone expected. The ranger station got the distress call at 2:17 p.m. Satellite emergency beacon, 40 people trapped, smoke inhalation, panic, flames cutting off the main trail. "We need immediate evacuation," the incident commander said. "How fast can we get a helicopter in there?" "No can do," air operations replied. "Winds are 40 miles per hour, smoke is too thick, we can't see to land." "What about ground evac?" "Already tried." Fire jumped the main trail. It's a wall of flames now. Nobody's getting through. The room went silent. 40 people were going to die, unless someone did something. Thomas stood up. "I can get to them." Everyone turned. "Thomas, you can't," the incident commander said. "The trail is compromised. The fire is moving at 4 miles per hour. You'd never make it." "There's another way," Thomas said. "Old game trail, Lakota hunting path from before the park existed. Steep, rocky, but it bypasses the fire zone. I can reach them from the North Ridge." "You can barely walk on flat ground," someone said. "Not cruel, just stating facts." "How are you going to climb a mountain?" "I've climbed it before," Thomas said, his voice calm, final. "And I'm the only one here who knows where that trail is. It's not on any map. My grandfather showed me 60 years ago." The room looked at him. This old native man with the prosthetic leg and the walking stick, proposing to climb a mountain, through smoke, to save 40 people, alone. "You'll die," the incident commander said quietly. "Maybe," Thomas agreed, "but 40 people will definitely die if I don't try. So I'm going." He grabbed his pack, extra water, first aid supplies, emergency blankets, flares, radio, his grandfather's medicine pouch that he always carried, and he walked out. Nobody stopped him. They knew better. Thomas drove his truck as close to the North Ridge as the roads allowed, got out, strapped his prosthetic tight. The leg was good, carbon fiber, modern, but it still ached where the stump met the socket. Still rubbed, still hurt after miles of walking. He'd done 12 miles on it before, but that was 10 years ago, and on flat ground. This was different, steep, rocky, through smoke, with a wildfire chasing him. He thought about Vietnam, about humping through the jungle with 60 pounds of medical gear, about the day the mine took his leg, about waking up in a field hospital with half his left leg gone and thinking his life was over, about proving everyone wrong. For 50 years, he started climbing. The old game trail was exactly where he remembered. Steep, narrow, barely visible through the scrub brush. His grandfather had brought him here as a boy, taught him to track deer, to read the land, to survive. Thomas moved carefully. The prosthetic leg wasn't designed for this. Each step required focus, balance. He used the walking stick, pushed, pulled, climbed. His stump screamed in pain. Sweat poured down his face. Smoke burned his lungs. But he kept moving. Behind him, he could hear the fire, a constant roar, like a freight train, the wind pushing it closer. He checked his watch. 40 minutes since he started. He was maybe 3 miles in, 9 miles to go, 40 people counting on him. He climbed faster. 2 hours later, Thomas crested the North Ridge. His body was done, spent. The prosthetic had rubbed his stump raw, blood seeping into the socket. Every step was agony, but he could see them, the 40 hikers, huddled on Eagle Point, surrounded by smoke, scared, some injured, some unconscious, kids crying, adults praying. He keyed his radio, Ranger Running Bear to Incident Command. "I have visual on the hikers." "Thomas," the commander's voice cracked. "You made it?" "Affirmative," Thomas said. "Beginning evacuation now. Copy. Fire is 2 miles from your position and closing. You have maybe 90 minutes. Understood. Thomas descended to the hikers. When they saw him, this old native man with a prosthetic leg and a walking stick, some of them looked confused, relieved, terrified. One woman spoke. "Thank God. How many rangers are coming?" "Just me," Thomas said. "I'm going to get you out. But you need to listen carefully and do exactly what I say." He assessed quickly. 40 people. 3 with severe smoke inhalation, 2 with twisted ankles, 1 possible broken arm, 5 children under 10, the rest exhausted, dehydrated, scared, but mobile. He radioed in, "Incident Command. I need medevac helicopter standing by. We're going to have to risk the smoke. I have 3 critical." "Copy. We'll prep a bird. Where's your extraction point?" Thomas looked at the terrain, calculated. "There's a clearing 1 mile north. Flat enough to land. I'll get them there." "In 90 minutes?" Doubt crept into the commander's voice. "With 40 people?" "Yes," Thomas said, and cut the radio. He looked at the group. "My name is Ranger Thomas Running Bear. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I've been doing mountain rescue for 35 years. I know you're scared, I know you're tired, but that fire is coming and we need to move now." One man stood. "Sir, no offense, but you're..." He gestured at the prosthetic leg. "How are you going to lead us out?" "The same way I led men out of the jungle in Vietnam," Thomas said. "One step at a time. Now let's move." He organized them. Strongest adults in front and back, children in the middle, injured supported by pairs. He gave his walking stick to one of the people with twisted ankles, took nothing for himself, started leading them north. The trail was brutal, steep descent, loose rocks, smoke so thick they could barely see 10 feet ahead. Thomas moved steadily, his prosthetic screaming, his stump bleeding, his lungs burning, but he didn't stop, didn't slow. Every 50 yards he'd count the group, make sure no one fell behind. Encourage, command, lead, just like he had in 69, in 70, in 72. Half a mile in, one of the children collapsed, heat exhaustion. Thomas knelt, assessed. The boy needed fluids, rest, things they didn't have. Thomas looked at the father. "Can you carry him?" "I'll try. Not good enough." Thomas stood, handed the boy to the strongest man in the group. "Carry him." "I've got it," the man said. Thomas turned to the father. "You walk point with me. Keep moving. Keep your son in sight. We don't leave anyone behind." The father nodded, tears in his eyes. They kept moving, 3/4 of a mile, the clearing in sight, the fire close enough now that they could feel the heat, see the flames through the smoke. Thomas pushed them. "Come on." "Almost there. Move." They broke into the clearing. 40 people, 40 yards from the flames. Thomas keyed his radio. "We're at the LZ. Send the bird. Now. Roger. Inbound. 2 minutes." Thomas looked at the fire, at the 40 people, at the smoke. 2 minutes might be too long. The helicopter appeared through the smoke like a ghost, blades roaring, downdraft clearing the smoke temporarily. It couldn't land fully. Too dangerous, too smoky, but it could hover low. They loaded the critical patients first. 3 smoke inhalation cases, then the children, then the injured, then the adults, one by one, the pilot shouting over the noise. "We're at max capacity. We need 2 trips. No time," Thomas shouted back. The fire was 50 yards away now, closing. "Take them, all of them. What about you? I'll wait for the second bird." "There isn't a second bird. Then I'll walk out." Thomas shoved the last person toward the helicopter. "Go, go, go." The pilot hesitated, then lifted off. 40 people aboard, overloaded, dangerous, but alive. Thomas watched them disappear into the smoke, turned, looked at the wall of fire, smiled, whispered to his grandfather in Lakota, "I did good today." Then he ran. Thomas Running Bear didn't die that day. He made it to a rocky outcrop, climbed above the fire line, waited 6 hours while the flames passed below. When the second helicopter finally found him at 11 p.m., he was dehydrated, burned, exhausted, but alive. They brought him to the hospital, treated him for smoke inhalation, 2nd-degree burns, severe dehydration. When he woke up, the incident commander was sitting by his bed. "You crazy old man," he said, voice thick. "You saved 40 people." "Just doing my job," Thomas said. "Your job doesn't include running into wildfires alone." "It does today," Thomas said. The commander shook his head. "The families want to meet you." "Thank you. I don't need thanks." "You're getting it anyway," the commander said. "Plus a commendation, plus probably a medal, and definitely a lecture about risk management." Thomas smiled, closed his eyes, slept. The news crews came, called him a hero. The 40 hikers held a ceremony, gave him a plaque. Their kids drew pictures, adults cried, thanked him, asked how he did it. "I'm Lakota," Thomas said. "My people survived winters that killed settlers, cavalry that tried to erase us, poverty, addiction, genocide. A wildfire is just another challenge. Plus, I'm a medic. We don't leave people behind." One of the hikers, the man who'd carried the boy, approached. "Sir, I'm sorry for what I said, about your leg, about doubting you." "Don't be," Thomas said. "People doubt me every day. I'm 63, missing a leg. Most people see limitation. I see motivation." The man nodded, shook his hand. "You saved my son's life. Thank you. You're welcome." The Park Service wanted Thomas to retire after that. Too old, too risky, too much liability. Thomas refused. "I'll retire when the mountains tell me to," he said. Not before. They let him stay. Couldn't really force him out after he'd become a national hero, but they assigned him a partner, young ranger, 30 years old, athletic, capable, named Sarah Chen. She was supposed to keep him safe. Instead, Thomas trained her, taught her survival, tracking, reading weather, reading people, all the things his grandfather taught him, all the things Vietnam taught him, all the things 35 years in the wilderness taught him. She became the best ranger in the park. And when she asked him one day how he stayed so strong despite everything, Thomas told her the truth. "I'm not strong," he said. "I'm broken. I've been broken since Vietnam, since the mine, since the nightmares, since losing friends, since coming home to a country that hated us. But being broken doesn't mean being useless. Sometimes the broken pieces are sharper, cut deeper, reach further. Sarah absorbed that. A year later, she saved 3 climbers using techniques Thomas taught her, credited him in her report. He shrugged, just passing on what was given to me. 5 years after the Wildfire rescue, Thomas finally retired. Not because the mountains told him to, because his body did. The prosthetic leg had worn out. His stump was too damaged for a new fitting. He could barely walk 50 yards without pain. At 68, Thomas Running Bear hung up his ranger uniform, had a small ceremony. The park superintendent gave a speech. Thomas said nothing, just nodded, accepted the plaque, went home. But retirement didn't mean stopping. Thomas started teaching, survival courses for veterans, wilderness therapy for PTSD, using nature to heal what war had broken. Dozens of vets came through his programs. Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, all of them carrying trauma, all of them broken in different ways. Thomas taught them what his grandfather taught him. The land doesn't judge. It doesn't care about your pain or your past. It only asks if you're strong enough to survive. And survival isn't about being whole, it's about using what you have left. One veteran, a Marine who'd lost both legs in Fallujah, asked him, "How do you keep going? When everyone sees you as disabled, as limited, as less than." "I don't keep going for them," Thomas said. "I keep going for me, because the day I stop is the day I let the mine win, the day I let Vietnam win, the day I let everyone who ever doubted me win. So I don't stop, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts." The Marine nodded, started crying. Thomas put a hand on his shoulder. Let him. 2 years later, that Marine summited Mount Rainier, on prosthetic legs, sent Thomas a photo from the peak with a note. "The land doesn't care about my pain. Thanks for teaching me that." Thomas kept that photo on his wall, added it to the collection, pictures of all the people he'd saved, trained, helped, taught. 40 hikers from the Wildfire, 17 rescues from 35 years, 34 veterans from his programs, Sarah Chen getting promoted to lead ranger, all of them alive, moving forward, surviving. Because one old native man with a prosthetic leg refused to quit. On his 70th birthday, the Lakota elders from Pine Ridge came to visit, honored him with a ceremony, gave him an eagle feather, called him what his grandfather would have called him, warrior, not because he fought, but because he never stopped serving. Thomas accepted the feather, spoke in Lakota, thanked them, thanked his grandfather whose spirit guided him, thanked the mountains that raised him. That night, alone in his cabin, Thomas looked at his prosthetic leg, the old one, worn out, retired like him. He touched the scars on his stump, thought about Vietnam, about the mine, about waking up without half a leg and thinking his life was over, thought about proving them all wrong for 57 years. He whispered to the spirits, to his grandfather, to the land, "I did good, I served, I survived, I taught others to survive." "That's enough," the mountains whispered back, in wind through pines, in the call of an eagle, in the silence of stars. "Yes, that's enough." Thomas Running Bear smiled, closed his eyes, and slept without nightmares for the first time in 57 years. The warrior had earned his rest. The end.